Hey guys, hope you're well. So this is a video for the anti-theists, the people who are against religion, the people who have that hatred for religion, the people who want religion destroyed, eradicated, wiped out, that kind of mindset. First of all, I just want to say I would advise you against that mindset. And one of the reasons is because I used to be religious, was devoutly religious, and anytime I come across people who had that kind of destructive, almost like a psychological violence against religion, it would just I would just become very defensive. And it would just be this back contest of wills, of this contest for domination, right? Because it's coming from that, in my perspective, it's coming from that domineering mindset, the desire to dominate, control, destroy, humiliate. It's coming from that kind of, I don't think, a very nice place. As I said, I don't believe it's like one, I don't think intention is binary. So I see it's like a pie chart. So it could be like 60% one thing, 40% another, or a mixture of different intentions, right? But if your mindset is primarily this desire to dominate, destroy, humiliate, control religious people's minds, their perspective, that you must think exactly like this. If you have that kind of mindset, then I think that just generates defensiveness or animosity back, or a contest. So I don't think it's a good place to come from. I like Emmanuel Swedenborg, who's a Christian mystic and theologian, and he says, and you don't have to take Christianity or anything like this, or believe in this in the supernatural context to agree with his point. But what he's saying is that when your intention, when it comes to correcting somebody, or justice, which might mean imprisoning somebody or punching somebody or something like this, right? Whatever it is, some kind of a corrective action. If it's coming from a good place, there's this desire inside you that hopefully this person turns their life around. Hopefully this person becomes a good person. I wish well for this person. There's that desire that it's just something you're doing to protect people, themselves or other people, or to try to make the world a better place. It's not coming from this desire to merely dominate, destroy, control, humiliate, or another human being. It's not coming from that place. And I agree with that. If there's genuine goodwill towards people, then I think it's coming from a better place. And the best person I've seen when it comes to criticizing religion with that mindset, what I believe, is a guy called Thurman Trees. I think he does it very diplomatically, and I genuinely think he does want people, anybody watching the videos who is religious, to walk away with perhaps question their religion, but also to have an alternative way of looking at things. And I think he genuinely does wish well. Whereas I've seen some people who I think do have more of a mindset centered in trying to destroy, humiliate, etc. religious people, like some kind of thrill. Yeah, I know I've done that. I've had periods times when I've debated people, and it's driven by a desire to dominate, intellectually dominate, destroy, humiliate them on an intellectual level. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy for you. If you've ever done that, it's not healthy for the person. I don't think it triggers, even if the person does abandon their beliefs, I don't think it does it in a healthy way, and I don't think it does it in a kind way, because it can leave them in a vacuum. But anyway, this video is about helping you to perhaps understand the religious mindset, and what I'm going to invite you to do is a thought experiment. Okay, so if you take God is a loaded term, and it might, as soon as you hear the term, there might be something in you that flutters, right? But if we take the term God, and let's do this thought experiment, I'm going to take the definition of God, or the understanding of God, from Emmanuel Swedenborg, who I've already mentioned is a Christian mystic and theologian. He said God is love and wisdom. God is goodness and truth. God is the essence. That's God's essence, and God is a consciousness. God is the supreme consciousness. So goodness and truth have a consciousness or personality, right? And so do love and wisdom, and that's God. God is the source. God is inseparable from love and wisdom. God is a personality. So let's take that and let's treat that as a metaphor. So when you're talking about goodness and truth, or love and wisdom, treat them as inseparable in this thought experiment, and treat them as having a personality. You might think, why would I do that? Okay, if you treat something as having a personality, what tends to happen is you tend to develop affection for it. Like when you're younger, and you used to maybe had a doll or an action figure or a teddy bear or something, and you treated that as if it was human. And what happens, a part of you knew it wasn't human, a part of you knew it wasn't sentient, but you treated it as, and what happened is you started actually developing affection for that thing. And so what happened was, when it was taken away or destroyed or something, you'd feel sad, right, or bad. There was it wasn't just something that brought you a source of pleasure is now gone. There was you've lost almost some kind of sentient being, a bond, right? An affective bond, a bond from a relationship, not just from the pleasure of having a possession or source of entertainment. There was a bond of a relationship that was severed. So one of the benefits of having a metaphor and treating God as a metaphor is you develop an affection. So imagine developing an affection for goodness, developing an affection for truth, or developing affection for love, or affection for wisdom. Think about how you would see the world. Think about how you would feel walking around, and what you would want to do in order to connect more to this source of love and wisdom and this source of goodness and truth is through aligning, as Manuel Swedenborg advises, aligning your qualities of your being, aligning your thoughts, aligning your words, aligning your deeds with love and wisdom, or goodness and truth. You can use those interchangeably, right? So that's how you connect with this being. That's how you worship this being. So, by the way, there is a completely naturalistic understanding or interpretation of religion called religious naturalism, and one of the most prominent figures is Michael Dowd, who does not believe in the supernatural. He uses Christianity as a set of allegories and narrative and poetry and myth in order to just develop, like I said, this effective quality towards reality, towards nature, towards fellow human beings. So he fuses together science and religion. And so if you do this thought experiment, you might start developing genuine affection for goodness and truth. Goodness and truth will no longer be this like abstract thing, this thing that's out there, right? It will be something that's close to you, something that you actually have an active emotional relationship with. So if you do that thought experiment, that might change the way you see perhaps Hindus when they do devotional worship, or the way you change when you see Sikhs, when you hear Sikhs talking about God and their love of God and connecting to God and experience of God. It might change the way you see some of the Christian mystics, such as Francis of Assisi, Franciscan Christians, or Swedenborgian Christianity, or Buddhism, when they're talking about the Dharma and right conduct, right speech, and the bliss and the kind of quality of being that can develop. And what you might start to do is see you might see how that genuinely enhances people's lives, even if you don't believe it's literally true. And I'm not talking from an intellectual understanding. That's why I'm advising you to do a thought experiment. It's not an intellectual. Yeah, I can see how that can add benefit to people's lives. You'll start feeling it. You'll be like, I understand what it's like to treat this the goodness, the source of goodness and truth, or goodness and truth, as a living being, as a living consciousness that is within everything, that powers everything that is around us, that we can connect to, that we can develop a relationship to, an emotional relationship. You might start seeing, if you use this as a thought experiment and try it for a week or so, even a day, pray as well. If you start praying to this source of goodness and truth, to be a better person, to help you in life, etc., it might help you to feel something. Or try some kind of devotional practice, such as maybe chanting the name of God, whichever tradition, or saying a prayer with this idea that God is the Father or the Divine or whatever, is a source of goodness and truth, is the living source of goodness and truth, the live conscious source of goodness and truth, the live conscious source of love and wisdom. And when you do that, as I said, something might open up. And what that might do, one, I warn you, you might actually start developing a curiosity for religion or things like near-death experiences, because I'll be honest, that's what happened to me. Or at the least, and this is a genuine hope, is you might start softening your stance towards religion. And when you have people who within a religion who may not necessarily be exclusivist, because that's not necessarily true for all religions or religious people. You can have people who are Christians, who are Muslims, who are Jews, who come from a mainstream exclusivist interpretation that our way is the only way and everybody else is on the wrong path and going to hell, etc. But you can have people who are universalists, who are Christian universalists, who are Muslim universalists, normally Sufis. Not all Sufis are universalists, but some are, or Jewish universalists, right? And you'll develop an affection for them because you realize what they really care about is just developing qualities of goodness, of kindness, of thoughts, words and deeds, of goodwill, compassion and generosity, and helping people. That's really what they care about, and developing this loving relationship through developing these qualities, right? And you also think about that with Hindus who are like that, and Sikhs who are like that, especially Sikhism. I love Sikhism, especially with Sikhism and Swedenborgian Christianity, I think are my two favourites, and Franciscan Christianity. And you'll start developing affection for those kind of practices, and you'll start realizing that maybe religion is not the problem. Maybe the problem is people's understanding of God and God's will. If people had an understanding of God and God's will as goodness and truth, or love and wisdom, as people in Hinduism do, as people in Sikhism do, as people in Swedenborg in Christianity do, as people in Franciscan Christianity do, as people who from Buddhism do, to a degree, because anyway, Buddhism is a complicated topic when it comes to God. But if you have that experience, then, as I said, it might soften, and you actually might see benefit in that religion staying around, because if there's a beauty, I think there's an aliveness to having religion as a living tradition, not an abstract thing such as or a dead thing such as like the gods of Greek mythology, etc., or these very old religions, right? But a living tradition where people have a genuine affection for their understanding of the divine, or their perspective of the divine, how they worship the divine, the rituals, the art, the traditions, the dress, the holidays celebrated. Then you might actually see there's effective qualities to this that you would like. There's qualities to that you would actually like to see continue. And I'm going to end with I'm going to post a link to a video that's that is an interview with Richard Dawkins and Satish Kumar. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And in the video you can see they're sort of talking past one another. But what Satish Kumar is trying to say is that what a lot of secular people, or people who are anti-theists, they're focusing on quantification, or things that are measurable, and saying it's silly to focus on anything else, etc. We need to focus on the facts, etc. And what Satish Kumar is talking about is, I'm focusing on quality, and what spirituality is focusing on quality. So quality can't be measured. Like, you can't measure friendship, you can't measure love, you can't measure you can measure acts. You can say, well, this person's doing this act or so, but the act might not actually be motivated by an actual affection. It might be motivated by a desire to manipulate, etc. But anyway, that's getting off topic. But you know, these qualities of being, you can't, or and things like this, you can't measure these qualities. These qualities are internal. They're intersubjective experiences. Almost everybody reports them of feelings of friendship and affection and awe and gratitude and all these things, but you can't measure them. And so he's saying there's a benefit to focusing on quality, and that's what spirituality is. And you can talk about the quality of a television, or the quality of a stone, or the quality of a country, etc. But these things aren't actually measurable, but you could argue they actually exist. So that's one of the benefits of religion, because religion tends to focus on quality rather than quantification, rather than reductionism and atomism. It focuses on the quality of things and reminds us to keep in mind the quality of things, reminds us to develop a relationship with quality, as I said. So whether you believe it literally or use it as a metaphor, God is the quality of goodness and truth, or love and wisdom. And so by doing that, you might gain an understanding of religion. And I strongly advise you to do that thought experiment that I presented, and please try at least for a day, or try it for a week, and see if you don't develop some kind of affection when you start listening to religious people. And I've actually posted as well some channels which, if you do that thought experiment from that place of what I've said, you might develop a softening regarding your stance towards religion, a softening regarding your stance towards religious people. Even if you still don't agree with it, or you're like, well, I don't believe it's literally true, but you, as I said, from an experience, it'll be experiential understanding of religion rather than an intellectual understanding of why some people may be religious. So anyway, guys, I generally hope you're well, and take care.